Welcome to an extra episode of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm talking about comic books and the paranormal. As always, you can find all episodes of the show, along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Michael Strange and Trouble Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange for putting my shows up on the station and having me there. If you'd like to support my show, you can do that in a few different ways. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can find books I've written over on Amazon, paranormal fiction and nonfiction, including my most recent release, Salsido Paranormal Experiences. You can sign up for the Patreon page and get 1 extra episode of true paranormal stories from the web every week whenever possible. And you can also just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. So this is part 3 of my summary of the Marvel Comics event, Age of Apocalypse. Wow, I can't talk tonight. Anyway, and this is mostly an X-Men related title here, and this takes place when Charles Xavier, who is possibly the planet's greatest, most powerful telepath, his son, who is also extremely powerful, goes back in time to help his father, to help Xavier, by killing Magneto. But of course, when he does this and he fires an energy beam at Magneto, Xavier jumps in front of the energy beam to save Magneto and is killed by his own son. And this creates this entirely new and separate timeline that should not exist. And the only person that is sure of this is Bishop, who is a time traveler who has traveled in many different cases. But in this particular one, he went back in time to try to stop Legion from doing this to Xavier and wasn't able to. And so he has memories of the world as it should be. And a lot of what Magneto and his forces are trying to do is to get verification of this. And but anyway, so this whole world is different because Xavier never formed the X-Men. Magneto did. And Apocalypse, who is this immortal, nearly immortal anyway, mutant with a lot of power and resources of his own, decides to take over the world. And he's able to take over the entire continent of North America before Magneto is able to organize his own forces and start a resistance to Apocalypse. So, and a lot of what Magneto does is he figures out what needs to be done and sends groups of people out to do these on these missions to try to make things better and to stop the eventual takeover of the entire world by Apocalypse. And I've been giving quick summaries of the comics that were involved in this event, because the other thing that happened is all the X-Men related comic book titles that existed before this event were canceled and or changed to reflect this different world where characters made different decisions and are in different places and roles than they were before. So let me get back to this this document here, and we only have 3 more titles to cover. This next one is called Weapon X. Now, for anyone that's familiar with the comics, that was the name of the secret experimental programs designed to make basically super soldiers. And I don't know as much about that regarding recent years and additions to all that as some people may, but that was the program that Logan, as in Wolverine, one of the main X-Men, definitely became one of the main ones over the years. That is his code name in this world. And he still has his claws, his blades in his hands, and his healing factor. In this world, though, he is actually, this is sort of a reverse, again, of the mainstream timeline, in that Jean Grey fell in love with Cyclops, the leader of the X-Men in that world, in the main world. And they've always been together. And in that world, Jean Grey always cared for Logan, for Wolverine, as well. But she was always mostly always with Cyclops, with Scott Summers, as far as officially anyway. And I've seen conflicting things here and there, but that's not so much the point. In this world, these two, Wolverine and, or as he's known, Weapon X, and Jean Grey, are together. And of course, they started off with the X-Men, but they eventually ended up leaving, and due to sort of partially Wolverine's attitude and Magneto's own attitude, which could be serious at times. And so they I'm just checking out this document here. They go off to carry out missions for the head of the human resistance to all this that's going on, which is the Human High Council, which is in over in I believe in Europe, at least in the UK. And they carry out missions for this group, and they learn that this Human High Council plans to launch basically a nuclear strike on the U.S., which is at this point been taken over by Apocalypse. And of course, Jean Grey is terrified at this idea and does not like it, for all the damage it would cause to the world and to just so many other people that are still there that would be killed, that have nothing to do with Apocalypse. And so she and Wolverine, who is sort of neutral on this whole tactic, he figures there's nothing he can really do about it, or they can do about it. So this comic sort of covers the two of them, Jean Grey and Wolverine, a lot. But eventually, Jean Grey leaves to help evacuate the U.S., and Wolverine is sent to off on other missions. And is one of his main ones that he's sent on is to find another mutant named Gateway, who has teleportation. If I could, again, talk, words are hard. He can actually, now the difference with him and others that have teleportation abilities is that he can teleport massive. His teleportation is not limited to one or two people that are making physical contact, as, let's say, Nightcrawler, his abilities are. He can seemingly teleport anything he wants to, including massive fleets of ships. As I'm not sure if it's, I'm guessing that means boats, but I'm not sure. But anyway, so Weapon X, or Wolverine, goes with these fleets as they're heading towards the U.S. to find Jean Grey in the U.S. before these bombs are dropped. And of course, this title is this Weapon X is a replacement for Wolverine's own solo title in the X-Men comics at the time. So that was that one. The next one here. Now this surprised me because this whole time I was reading all these comics with all these characters, all these X-Men and everything, and the whole time I was wondering, where is Cyclops? So this next comic is called Factor X, which of course is a play on the original title for that comic series, X Factor, which is a name of it's a name that has been used by several teams of X-Men related characters over the years. But so this Factor X comic focuses on one of Apocalypse's main forces, which is the elite mutant force, and they are split into. They're all siblings. They're split into 5 groups, and the first group is Cyclops and Havoc. So yes, Cyclops is working for Apocalypse in this world, and then there's others that are not quite major characters, so I will skip over those. But let's see here. Yeah, so there's these teams, and they're all siblings that work for each other, or work for Apocalypse and work with each other. And the EMF is supposed to maintain control of Apocalypse's breeding pens. These are these labs where people are imprisoned and tortured and experimented on by Beast, another X-Men original, one of the original 5 X-Men, who in this world, talk about different characters, different people, people coming out or turning out in different ways. He is very different from what he is in the mainstream timeline. Beast, or Hank McCoy, or Henry McCoy, is a doctor, is a scientist, is a big part of the X-Men family, and I was always a firm believer in Xavier's dream of peaceful coexistence between mutants and humans. But of course, in this world, he never met Xavier. None of the X-Men really did. And so, in this world, he never gets that sort of kind. His personality never turns toward that kind, gentle aspect of him that everyone who's familiar with him throughout the years is familiar with. He's very much into what he's doing in this program, in this laboratory where he's experimenting on people. So another one that is also not quite the same is Havoc, who is Cyclops' brother. And he is very much also enjoying his role as being someone who is in the upper levels of society in this world. And he finds out that Cyclops is a traitor, which sounds more like what Cyclops is in the main world, in that he is a traitor to Apocalypse. He is doing good things. And he has been helping people escape the pens. And one of these times where he helped people out, a couple of the other members of this force, brother and sister pair that are Aurora and Northstar, who are part in the comics, in the mainstream comics, they are known for being part of Alpha Flight, which is maybe a lesser known team of heroes from Canada. But anyway, they're hurt when Cyclops allows prisoners to escape, and so Cyclops ends up being caught, and his role in that whole thing is um, is found out thanks to his brother, and Cyclops escapes eventually thanks to Jean Grey, who has arrived to help evacuate people from the U.S. Again, because of the events in Weapon X, she knows that there's going to be this nuclear strike that could possibly kill everyone in the U.S. along with Apocalypse, or at least everyone in his area where he has his main base. And so they the other members of this force, this elite mutant force, end up joining with Cyclops, and they eventually so they turn on Apocalypse, and they lead people out of that area, and that's sort of how that comic ends. But of course, Havoc is injured in the fight as well and vows to capture them again and to kill Cyclops. So, and these are all stories that are started in these comics, and then everything is sort of wrapped up in this in like the last couple of issues. I think it's called X-Men Omega, which is maybe the last of the comics in this whole event. But so yeah, and that's that whole story. Another thing I've read in another, it's not talked about here, but there was a conflict between Cyclops and Wolverine, and at some point in the past, and it was apparently over Jean Grey. And in this world, they didn't just sort of stop as they usually would in the mainstream world. They got into such a heated battle that Wolverine stabbed Cyclops in the eye and destroyed one of his eyes. And Cyclops, as this was happening, of course, blasted Wolverine and destroyed his Wolverine's hand. Not the metal that covers his, not the metal that is covers all of his bones, but just the hand itself. And so yeah, that's something that happened in this previous event that they don't even really hint at or talk about in the original comics, but is kind of brought up later on in other comics that came about because of how popular this event became over time. So throughout this event here, there's another character that is familiar to some X-Men fans, and this is, of course, Mr. Sinister, who is another one of Apocalypse's main underlings, even though Sinister himself has his own plans, always has his own plans as well, and to the point where sometimes they've conflicted with Apocalypse. And he is another one similar to Beast in that he is a scientist to a degree. And in this world, as in the mainstream world, he believes that the DNA of the Summers family, Cyclops family, Havoc's family, and the Gray family, Jean Grey's family, those two, that DNA combined would make the most powerful telekinetic mutant in the world. And in the comics, in the mainstream world, I keep on saying in the comics, this is all comics. In the mainstream world, Sinister always worked toward creating that mutant himself. In this world, he actually manages to do so. And this is the mutant that became Nate Gray, or X-Man, instead of just X-Men. Again, a play on the whole X-Men title. And so Nate Gray is created by Sinister and eventually escapes and becomes this hero to many people in the world. And this he joins this group of other mutants that have this traveling actor or traveling. It's a traveling group of actors that are also mutants that use this cover of being actors as in order to attack Apocalypse's trains and factories, and to help with the resistance as much as possible. So that's how that character comes into being. He is now, the odd thing about Nate Gray is he has an alternate version of himself, or he is an alternate version of another character. A lot of fans of the comics will know as Cable. Cable is sort of, if he had not gone through the things he went through in the comics, which is a whole other thing, involving time travel and techno-organic viruses and just a whole bunch of other things. Nate Gray never went through all these things. And so all these characters are all either working for or fighting against Apocalypse. And in the end, everyone comes together at where Apocalypse is at. And as because of the crystal that is there, that is present, and then these I believe this missile strike from the Human High Council, all these events, all these characters, all this fighting, the world starts to, this timeline, this world, this universe, again, because it is not supposed to be there, it starts to collapse in on itself. And of course, Apocalypse is defeated, and you think that world is going to be just destroyed by itself, because, again, at some point after this, you see that Bishop does manage to go back in time and stop Legion from accidentally killing his father, Xavier. And there's this huge flash, of course, as there is in these kinds of stories. And after it's all done, it shows the main world, the one that everyone is familiar with, as it should be. But once again, because of everything he's gone through, traveling through time and now traveling through different universes, and really, you could argue that, again, what is time travel? Is it really, are you traveling from one point in time in the universe to another point in time in that same universe, or are you not? Are you traveling to a different timeline, a different universe within the whole multiverse? And because I say this, because in this story, Bishop now has visions of this other world that apparently at this point in the comics was destroyed. And of course, I say that because the story became so popular that Marvel eventually did some writing and allowed that world to be brought back, and even had some of the characters from that world, including Nate Gray and a few others, that Dark Beast, the dark version of Beast, they were able to escape through this portal in this crystal as their world was collapsing in on itself. And they became part of the mainstream, the main timeline, the Earth 616 timeline, and ended up having major influences on the comics from then on for a while. So that is this review, I guess. I think that covers everything. Again, just this idea of parallel, alternate, even pocket universes. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.